Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Daphne Lage here. Join Nita Lanning and me on the Ragin' to the Vlogs show, where we talk about everything, nothing, and all the bits in between. Looking for hour-long conversations about indie comics, social media marketing, and crowdfunding, with the occasional rant and story time? Head on over to the Ragin' 2 channel on YouTube, Mondays through Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern to join in the chat.
Hit the button.
Ed Gein, Demon Hunter, on Indiegogo. After a deranged demon escapes the bowels of hell, Satan is forced to send a damned soul back to Earth as a demon hunter. Armed with a sacrificial dagger, Ed returns to his old stomping ground to capture the demon before the universe is destroyed. Ed Gein, Demon Hunter. Issues 1 and 2 available now on Indiegogo. Prepare for the ultimate face-off.
We've crossed paths more than once. I've whispered in your ear, shown you harmless little temptations. I am unknowable, yet you know me intimately. But you can always know me better. Collected here are 20 twisted tales that will thrill, chill, incite, and delight you from some of the most imaginative minds your species has to offer. This exclusive Indiegogo printing of The Devil You Know Better will be limited and numbered, with signatures from Mike Barron and Hart D. Fisher. Stretch goals achieved for this campaign will add interior chapter illustrations by Stefano Cardacelli. The Devil You Know Better. Back it on Indiegogo today, while you still can.
Your favorite podcast, it's Critical Blast.
And good evening, everybody. I am R.J. Carter, coming to you from the newly refurbished studios of Critical Blast Broadcasting. Oh, crap, there's another shirt logo I got to make. I am the senior managing editor here at criticalblast.com, chief envelope licker for Critical Blast Logistics, myopic proofreader for Critical Blast Publishing, and I do answer the phones for IT consulting on crowdfunding projects for Critical Blast Consulting. Publishing, consulting, logistics, and podcasting. That's all of us. Tonight, put your wallets away. Well, keep them nearby, but there's no crowdfunding campaign. This one's an interesting show. Trust me, like you have before. Come on. This is not something that we've normally done. This is a roundtable like we kind of do on Sundays, but it's more of a family reunion of sorts. With me tonight, my guests are some folks that I used to work with on a day job kind of thing about 30 years ago. I had to walk to work in the snow, uphill both ways and barefoot. Yeah, back then. And we, as jobs do, we all went our separate ways, and we all kind of got into pop culture art in different ways. So we're back thanks to the miracle of the internet, and now we can sit down and talk with each other about what's been going on and what our projects are, and pop culture in general. Just kind of shoot the breeze. So feel free to join us in the chat and add to the conversation as you see fit. And with that, let me bring Martin Klubeck. I don't have to say lieutenant anymore, do I?
It would be major now.
So you're still active duty?
No, retired.
Retired major. Wow.
One of the most fun things you can do when you retire military is you call USAA for any reason, because they will call you by your rank. So
That's
I just
cool.
call them every once in a while and tell them, "Oh, can you tell me how much insurance I have? Can you tell me if I, if I paid up, whatever," just so they'll go, "Oh, Major Klubeck, yeah, I did it." And I'm like,
yeah, get to feel that again.
Yeah.
Also joining us from the same U.S. Air Force Base work that we did. What was that? Scott Air Force Base. Troy Reiser, author extraordinaire, film producer, bon vivant and man about town. How's it going?
It's going well, thank you. I love Old Home Week, I'm telling you. And no one has called me Sergeant Reiser in a very, very long time.
Well, Sergeant.
Hey.
So that takes me back.
Now, if everybody thinks this is a military reunion, I never had the honor to serve. I just, joined as a contractor, so I was walking around without stripes while these guys did. Well, you weren't active duty at the time we were working either. Actually, you were.
No, I wasn't, and I jumped out of planes.
You were.
I was a paratrooper with the 82nd.
Not to mention one hell of a sniper. So,
well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I've seen your targets. In fact, we're going to talk about your targets, the other kind, as we're on here tonight.
Well, I have them on screen. I'd love to share. And
well, by all means, let's get into it. Let's start doing that.
Well, talk about it. Let me preface it first, and one thing leads to another. I have a business now, a new business, and it's called Happy Fun Camp Productions LLC, and because when I was preparing to make the animated horror short, and I had never made a film before of any significance or anything like that, and I started looking online and watching videos of people who were making videos and so on, and some of them pretty established filmmakers, and almost unanimously they said, first thing you do, set up an LLC. And they were seemingly every one of them was very emphatic. That's the first thing you do. So that's what I did.
I've been told multiple times to do that, and the only thing that's stopping me is I want to have like a permanent address when I do it. I don't want to have to change it again.
Well, it's film production, even if what you have in mind is a horror short, is there's simply a innumerable moving parts. I'm just learning, and it's somewhat slow learning curve because I'm, I guess, somewhat slow. But the one thing, I had a solid script. I have a solid script. It's a very good script, and it's a very strong piece of work. And but I need the voice talent, I need the acting talent. I need it, and it's rotoscope, so I need live action too. I converted one of the kids' old rooms upstairs into what is essentially a green screen studio.
Oh, sweet.
And the whole point of it is, I even bought a walking machine, the kind that people take to work, and they walk this little treadmill. Well, it's a small room.
Yeah.
But I wanted
the feeling.
In rotoscope, you do the whole point of rotoscope is to capture natural movement. And so I needed a means by which I could move, and I could go on and get into the weeds. I won't, except as they're pertinent. But and I really lucked out because I had this great script and there was a character in it. Now, as it happens, I'm mutuals with the actor Nick Searcy on Twitter, and I asked him. I said, "Well, Nick, I need some voice work, and you're an authority. You do authority figures. That's become kind of his mainstay when he's not
Right.
playing evil villains like he did recently in Terror on the Prairie. But um, I said, so what? I contact your agent. How do I do this? He goes, oh no. He goes, don't worry about it. He goes, if you make any money, cut me in on it. And he did the voice work for me. So I've got that in the can, right?
Yeah.
And this is a man who's won the Peabody. He's been in innumerable films. He's directed. He's done it all. And I was so touched by that, and the kind of man that would do that. And a shout out to Nick. So I've got the ingredients for something really good. It's the bringing it together. And I discovered another fundamental truth about filmmaking. You can't do it with a zero budget.
No.
Everybody talks about the movie Primer because they did it for 15 grand or something like that. Not technically true because they maxed out on all their credit cards, but so, and when the Coen
That's not real
brothers,
money.
so when the Coen brothers started out, they did it all on credit cards. They did Blood Simple, all of it on credit cards. Well, my credit wouldn't bear that kind of weight. So I came up, my intention is to pay everybody involved and to pay them as handsomely as I can, which one thing led to another. So how do I make money? I have options. I can do, I can go the Indiegogo route, but then what would I offer as perks? I need to entice people. I need to bring them in. Well, then it occurred to me, my granddaughter wants to learn how to shoot. This seems completely off topic, but it isn't. And I'm an avid shooter. I go to the range regularly. It's something I genuinely love to do. And but my daughter and her husband are vegan, and they didn't like the idea. And my daughter Maggie expressed, really don't want her shooting at human silhouettes, Dad. And I said, well, there's regular targets and so on. But it got me thinking: are there non-homicidal silhouettes? And then I thought of those old time arcades when they used to have, you'd take that pump 22 and plink duckies and hit bullseyes and so on, and which were a real test of skill, especially given how dinged up the rifles often were.
Oh yeah, the sights never lined up.
Oh no. So I started thinking, well, I have a illustration and graphic design background. So I decided to essentially create what are trick shot targets. And I looked out there in the market, and there's nothing quite like them. So I was really pleased, and I'm happy to show them off if I can figure out how to share. Let me see. May I? Do I have permission?
Yeah, absolutely. Even if you didn't, if you tried to share, I'd still have to be the one to click on it over here to make it show up. So
it's easy as 2 monitors. Yes. Screen sharing works best on a good computer. Yes. Some screens let you share audio. Don't need to.
I screen share the old-fashioned way.
there you go. Oh, we're gonna be looking at some books.
I just hold it up.
So
low tech.
So I went for the man with the cigar, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my son Jake says he looks like a mafioso, and that's quite all right. I just, but I was obviously the silhouette had a kind of a Hitchcockian thing going on there.
I was going to say that's who exactly reminded me of was Hitchcock.
Yeah, a little more of a. I just thought that it worked for what I was trying to do, and I haven't tested these yet, printed or tested them. So I'm going to take them to the range. I'm going to have some prototypes made and take them to the range and see if they actually do the job. That if they are, I'm thinking along the lines of, somebody plinking, at like 7 to 10 yards. And I think this would be ideal for that. And the whole point of it is, per my daughter's reservations, the idea is not to hit the guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that fills that requirement, and I think it does it nicely. And I think people that have fun doing, I once saw Bruce Lee on film kick the tip of a cigarette out of a man's mouth faster than the camera could follow.
I have a story similar to that with Bruce Lee.
And this lady with a teacup. Um, my girlfriend posed so I could get a profile shot of her, um, so I could capture her profile and uh, put it in the design. But again, I think it's first of all, you want to target this challenging, but you also don't want to hit a little old lady. Well, I won't
Yeah,
say little old
exactly.
lady. I don't want her to like hear that part and beat me up. But
Too
uh,
late. You said it. It's forever here.
It's internet's forever, man. One of the things I noticed right away about the last two targets we've seen is what will make it a little bit even more challenging, and this is sort of a subtle psychological thing, is that the targets themselves are not center of the paper.
no, they're not.
So it's instinctive, I think, to I would think to shoot for the center of the paper, throw for the center of the object, but now you're like, I'm actually up and to the right or up and to the left.
Yeah, well, wait till you get a load of the last one I did. I kind of went nuts on the last one. Um, I got the idea. I started when I was thinking about the kind of target where you don't want to hit the person. Naturally, the thing that comes to mind is the knife thrower's assistant. They
Sure.
in circus parlance, they're called target girls. And as I was reading up on the subject and getting visual references and so on, the one thing that struck me is that every now and then you'd see this headline, local woman injured. It's seemingly, I mean, it's talk about your rough day job. It's but I wanted something. I used a Man Ray photograph as the visual reference for her face. If you're familiar at all with the work of Man Ray.
I am. I don't know
Yeah.
why I am, but I know that I am for some reason. What did he do?
He was a famous photographer in the 20s and 30s.
Okay.
And there's kind of a grim backstory there. He was also implicated in the Black Dahlia, not implicated,
That's where I know the name.
but associated somehow with the Black Dahlia murder rather. And but that's a creep factor that I actually didn't know about until my significant other brought it up. I was like, oh well, that's okay. The it's just a visual reference. I so we're good with that. But I think the design is solid, and I think all the designs are solid. So they'll either be they're a fundraising mechanism in essence. I used my illustration and graphic design background, and I may even do T-shirts or something of the like. Never having done a crowdfunding project, it'll be an eye opener for me. But I desperately want to pay people for their time for the film that I want to do. And yes, I have lovely friends, and they'd do anything for me. But it's an imposition, and yourself included, RJ. You're in it too. But I wanted you to have money in hand as a result of doing work you did.
It was literally nothing on my part, really. So say that. We do have people in the chat talking here, by the way. We've got Mike Walters here, who runs the mic stand. It's dropped in to share and say hi, and to remind everybody that I will be on his channel tomorrow, co-hosting his historical comics retrospective at 9 p.m. Eastern, where we go back to 1939 and read comics the way they used to be.
Well, of course, I'll stop sharing now, and I certainly didn't want to monopolize time. But, I did want to show this off. I think
we got nothing
solid.
but time. That looks very cool. Marty, you've been well, first of all, I always knew you were time out. Oh no.
Time out. You mentioned, you started to say that you had a Bruce Lee story. I love Bruce Lee. I love superheroes. I love Bruce Lee. He should have been a superhero. Well, actually he was, right? Kato in the Green Hornet. Yes. So he even played a superhero before we had Marvel superheroes going all crazy. This is way back. DC had a TV show, The Green Hornet, Kato. I want to hear your Bruce Lee story.
Well, funnily enough, it happens to be a Green Hornet story.
Even better.
Because it was 1989. I was at the Chicago Comic-Con, and Van Williams was there. And I got an autograph
Van Williams
picture.
Played the Green Hornet?
He played the Green Hornet. So I have an autograph picture from him hanging up on the wall right over there above my door that you can't see. And he was telling the story to the panel that one of the things that Bruce Lee would do was that whole little flick the cigarette kick that he did, only he would be like off camera waiting for his scenes. So he would try to see how close he could get to the cameraman's ear without touching him. And he was doing it all the time. And he was always being told, cut it out. That's, you know, the liability is like, yeah, he's Bruce Lee. He knows what he's doing. So sure enough, one time he fired off a kick and that cameraman turned and caught it right upside the jaw and dislocated his left, well, whatever side of the jaw he got hit on. And that was the last time Bruce screwed around on the set doing his little trick kicks.
Wow.
He also told the story when they did the Batman crossover, because like Burt Ward, they did their own stunts. So, you know, whenever you see Burt Ward crawling across the pit of crocodiles on Batman 66, he's crawling across the pit of crocodiles on the show. And it got time for the fight scenes. And you know the fight scenes that were choreographed with the biff, bam, pow.
Yep.
And it was like, you know, they're getting ready to, whatever that card is that the cameraman holds as action, you know, scene 2, take 2. And then they start fight. And every time they start the fight, Bruce Lee would like come in and Burt Ward would like, call him off, get away.
Burt Ward was a karate champion in his own right.
Yes, but he was scared of Bruce Lee because Bruce would get this intense look like, you know, oh, we're going to really do this. So we're not going to play around.
He mistook the intensity. I know that intensity, and that intensity is, I'm not going to hurt this guy. It's harder not to hurt somebody doing work like that than
Sure,
it
it
is
makes a whole much better story with him backing off.
Well,
yeah, it does.
I tried to reach out to Burt Ward once before. I'd love to get him on the show sometime to talk with him about, you know, stuff because he's running a dog rescue now down, I believe it's in Florida, but could be wrong. You know, him and Julie Newmar are the only ones I know that are still around from the show.
Right. Wow, that would be great.
You know, Julie Newmar had the best Catwoman line ever. She and Batman were in an ice cream shop and sharing, you know, straw on each side or whatever. Romance was in the air. And she's trying to convince Batman that she turned over a new leaf. And he says, "What about Robin?" And she said, "We'll have him put to death painlessly." I just thought that was the greatest line ever. I was like,
I remember that. Yes.
The screenwriter he earned his pay on that one because it stuck in my mind for 50. Yeah.
Not quite reformed.
Yeah.
I have her photograph on the wall over here, also autographed and signed. It's
well, Batman's response was, "Catwoman, you haven't changed at all." And she gives him this look.
So, RJ, you might have to change the photos that are in your backdrop.
I know. Well, you know, this closet's in the way. I've got the Julie Newmar signature photo over here. I have the Yvonne Craig Batgirl photo back there. And then above that, I have you can actually see it right there. I have the Holy Trifecta. In fact, Burt Ward's signature says Holy Trifecta. So I've got Burt Ward, Yvonne Craig, and Adam West, all signatures on that one photograph. So
nice.
It's one of the prizes of the collection here. I've run out of wall space though.
I love the tie into superheroes. My people, I stream. So I've been streaming chess now since May of 2021. That's
one long match.
It's one long stream. It just never ends, and it's been great. I started because of the pandemic, and someone was saying that one of my students, because I teach chess still, as I did in Mascuda, started chess clubs there. And the students like, I was thinking about going online and streaming chess. And I said, that sounds like a great idea. He goes, yeah, but you teach me. You should be streaming chess. And I said, okay, what is it? So he introduced me to Twitch. And so I started streaming chess. And one of my things when I stream is I have the chessboard behind me all the time, but I also always wear superhero shirts because I love superheroes. I have a whole bunch of shirts. They're like, what do you call this material? That tight neoprene, whatever. And it's like, really? I can't go out in the sun. I'll just sweat to death. It's good when it's cool out, but then, you know, it's a short sleeve. So when do I get to wear my shirts? whenever I stream. So
On the stream.
yeah.
Just to interject very quickly, my friend Josh is on his way. He said, I thought it was 8, so I'm guessing he lives central and is now discovering that I thought I had written EST, but
Yeah, you got to tell
anyway.
him, yeah, it is at 8. Yeah, I had a player in my tournament did the same thing. I was like, you're supposed to be playing now. And he writes back, oh, no, you said 8. I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, because it was 7 where he was at. So
I'm surprised I haven't done it to Troy before on streams because I've had hey
There he
Marmaduke
is.
man,
Howdy.
Glad you could make it, man.
Thank you
We're
for
just
having me
talking
on.
about time zones.
We've
Glad to
seen
do
each
it.
other on Twitter for ages. It's my first time chatting with you. How about that?
Exactly. But I've had Kara Nicole on our show before. She's a not a podcaster, well, guest podcaster, cosplayer, entrepreneur extraordinaire. She comes up with some of the most brilliant things I've ever seen on crowdfunding things. But she's in Arizona, and I was like, hey, we need you on the show this time on this day. It'll be such and such time, Arizona. I am completely unaware of the fact that Arizona exists in this nebulous limbo of time where sometimes it's on California time and sometimes it's on mountain time because they don't change with the daylight savings time.
Wow.
And
I'd heard that because I listened to a podcast by a Arizona pastor, and he's joked about that in the past whenever we're all jet lagged from losing an hour of sleep.
Oh, and I thought Indiana, or at least a section of it, did the same thing. Troy, is that?
We used to, but don't even get me started. Sorry.
yeah, they don't do it much anymore. I'm actually near Indiana. I work in Indiana, live in Michigan. So it used to be fun. I would travel from one time zone to the other, going to work and then traveling back.
Boy.
But that was only part of the year. That was part of the year. But now they changed it, and now it's only a little tiny sliver of Indiana that's like right up against Illinois. Yeah, that changes, but everybody else is all on Eastern Standard Time.
Oh man, that would
Marty,
just suck.
Plug your book.
All right.
Look, Marty.
Oh, I was waiting, Troy. You were telling stories about targets, and then I had to hear about the Bruce Lee story.
Yeah.
I had to hear the Bruce Lee story. I love Bruce Lee. I would love to have a personal Bruce Lee story. I don't have one of those. But yeah, he says plug. I didn't do fancy graphics to put it on the screen, but I do have a book. I wrote it with my daughter, and my daughter will say, "Dad, why'd you put my name on the book?" And I'm like, "Because I love you, and you're my daughter." And she helped. She inspired it. She wrote the draft of the first 3 chapters, and I ran with it after that. And Troy made me think of writing. RJ, I was always wanting to write as well as do my artwork. I did, but I tell you what, I did. I was going through my old materials because not only did I run into Troy a little, finding old friends again, and RJ, but I ran into another one that was in Arizona, Tucson, Arizona, when I was stationed there, and she was in a creative writing class with me. And I looked her up because I'm looking through these old papers and I find her resume. And it was a writer's resume, handwritten with notes that I had done on it. So I had to find her. I was actually able to track her down, find her, and I've been talking to her now every once in a while. I get to call and we talk about writing again. And Troy, I've tried to keep in touch with over the years. But while I'm looking through those papers, I find one of my first stories I ever wrote. The first thing that was near a book. And I find handwritten notes from Troy Reiser giving me feedback on my book. And it was great because, he starts off with, first, the good news. It's not bad written. It's got some good prose. It's rather interesting from time to time. You do pretty good with dialogue. It's not bad. Now the bad part. And it went on for about 5 more pages. But
hey, I have tempered that over time. And when I was in college, I was vicious.
Well, I didn't find you vicious at all, Troy. I mean, it was nice. You even said things. Can it be a commercial success? Not as it's written today. So, Troy, I did not take it like it was really bad. But
That's
this
Troy.
book,
Troy put us both on that path.
Yeah, I tell you. So, Troy, we'll talk about Troy's writing path. Let Troy write. I'll let him talk about his writing path sometime. But this one was a 10-year book because I wrote it over 10 years ago, the first draft, rewrote, and then like every good piece of art, I realized it'll never be done. I just have to stop writing it.
Yep.
Right? Any painting I've ever done, it's never done, but I have to stop painting it. I just have to stop. You have to stop playing with it, stop working on it. So in February, I published it because I was like, I've spent 10 years rewriting it, and I want to get it done. I want to get it done. And the beauty of it is, I did that. I've been writing. RJ, I challenge you. I will send you the money because it's like $1. I will send you the money. It's a whole $1. I want you to try out my Sir Lock the Gnome stories. It's only ebooks. It's only Kindle, only electronic, but they are fun as all get out. They are my D&D character out in the world trying to become the greatest detective of all time, like Sir Lock the Gnome might make you think of. My daughter reads that. My oldest daughter, she is now 34 years old, and she reads that, and she says, Dad, wow, don't take this the wrong way, but I read that, and I didn't even believe you wrote it.
Wow.
Yeah, I spent about 3 hours trying not to take that the wrong way. I couldn't figure out how not to, but I got where she was going. And she told me, she says, you know what? She loved this book. She thought this book was great. She loved it. But she's like, the Sir Lock the Gnome stories? She goes, that just seems so natural for you. She goes, you have to try writing a mystery, a full novel, right? Something big. Because the Sir Lock the Gnome stories, they're only ebooks because they're short they're short stories. So I am already writing a novel. I have spent 20 plus days. I am going to finish it. Thank you so much, RJ. I'm going to finish it in a 30-day window, like the November writing contest they do for writing a novel.
Yep.
I'm planning on finishing the first draft this weekend. And where this took 10 years to write, I'm planning on getting this one done in like 6 months. And it's a blast writing it. Every time I sit down, I want to write. When I'm not writing, I'm thinking about it. And I'll stay up way past my bedtime. And Lord knows I need a bedtime now because I'm older. And, you like, I don't care if I can't get up in the morning and go to work. I got to write this part. I got to write it down. I'm enjoying it immensely. But
I remember those fires.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've had them. I mean, the last things I've been writing myself, you can see the logo under here. It's not my logo, by the way. It's a franchise. I got to write some of the Remo Williams stuff for the Destroyer series. And if you're familiar with the franchise, it's real heavy on satire, taking things happening in the social structure and political structure and just pushing it to the next level. And honest to goodness, I can't see it from where we're at right now. I'm like, how do I make this any more ridiculous than it already is?
That's the big complaint of the Babylon Bee. They say they can't do parody because it's it makes them look like fortune tellers.
Yeah, and it's taking less and less time for their prophecies to come true. I mean, it was just last week. The headline was Democrats forestall January 6th hearings to stage insurrection.
Yeah, eventually there'll be a convergence and where the two worlds will become one.
The singularity will happen.
And we will be officially living in a parody which many suspect that to be the truth.
So Marmaduke, Marmaduke fan, where do you come into first of all being such a fan of Brad Anderson?
Let me see here. I'm sorry. Help me out. Help me out a little bit. Like one of his particular books.
Well, no. Brad Anderson is the creator of Marmaduke.
There we go. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I knew that. I just
he likes Marmaduke. He doesn't like the guy that created him.
I really like the old comics actually. So when I was a kid, I think by then either his kids took over or someone else took over. So the kind of like the original idea of the strip is great. It's a big dog and it's a family, and I love family life kind of strips, family circus kinds of humor. Apparently, there's actually a sculpture devoted to his honor in his hometown, and Marmaduke's been surprisingly successful in marketing. He's had cartoons. He's had an absolutely atrocious Netflix movie. He's appeared in, I think like he's been used in advertising for bars and pubs and things. But really, the Marmaduke fan name is an old 2017 meme that's dead. Your boy Zach once joked that number one Marmaduke fan should be his secret Twitter name. I gave him like a week to claim that username. He didn't claim that username. I said, that is too good a username for someone to post nonsense memes on Twitter about comic books. And so,
Yes.
people actually thought I was Zach for a while until I made my own channel and started talking comics myself. So it's a dead meme, and I keep it alive like a zombie.
As ridiculous as the world is getting, Pops has his clown nose ready. Pops, you ready to live in a clown world with us? You're muted, man.
We are living in the prequel to Idiocracy, my friend.
Yes, we are.
If you know the movie I'm talking about, we're
living in the opening credits.
Years to get there. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say hi, guys, and what's up, and keep doing what you're doing. The devil, you know better. Go get it.
It's all about everybody else right now. I kind of come in at the end, man. Pops runs the comics related madness over on Facebook and YouTube, so he is a nonstop comic book convention for creators. So if you are creating a comic,
we need to get you some background graphics, bro. Come on, we got this black screen back. Come on, no, I need the black screen. Come on, man.
You don't like that?
No, we need some critical blast. There you go. Something.
You gotta get like a Fortnite playing Zoomer. Yeah.
Check out what all these guys do. It's all awesome. You know what's up. I'm Pops Van Zandt. I'm out. Peace.
See you, Pops.
That made me feel like we were watching the Batman show and we were climbing up the building and Pop stuck out his head out the window to talk to us.
Yeah, exactly. He's still in the back room clapping and laughing. Yeah, Pops and I are both cross team members on StreamYard, so it's sort of like a Wilson on Home Improvement. I never know when he's going to stick his head up over the fence and just pop into the room.
That's cool.
It allows us to stream on each other's channels. So
I loved it. That was great.
Oh. Where were we? We were sculpting Marmaduke, and your boy Zach didn't take the name, and so you are a Comscape fan, then I take it, Marmaduke.
Yeah. Well, I guess what would have been like 2018 when the CG Civil War happened. I basically made the argument that I thought that by the time we were doing a Civil War, like, are we talking about comic books anymore? So I didn't leave Comicsgate exactly. I just concluded that the Twitter nonsense was becoming all consuming and we need to concentrate on making comic books. So then I kind of went into a cone of silence and started drawing my comic, and then finally started coming back to Twitter to just chat with people about comics. Sometimes I can't help myself and I peek in at like the drama side of Twitter, but I think I've done a pretty good job of trying to focus on the art in the comics rather than just get into all the, who hates who this week. Man, all the sides are switching. It's a reality TV show.
This man is a solid artist. He is solid. If you look at his work,
I can do a screen share actually.
Do that, please. Yeah, show off your stuff, man.
All right.
I've heard people call the stuff in Comicsgate a Civil War. I've offended people. Because I go the religious route on it. I was like, the day that, your boy Zach basically listed jawbreakers was Martin Luther nailing his proclamation to the church, to the chapel door. And ever since then, it's just been fracturing and splintering into, Southern Comicsgate, First United Comicsgate, Reformed Comicsgate. It's just, Westboro Comicsgate, and I use that for the initials. It's everybody's Comicsgate. It's in it, except the people who say they're Comicsgate and aren't in their Comicsgate. It's a weird little purity test that a lot of people run. So what are we looking at here? Jane Smith,
So you got-
wannabe gladiator.
You got it popped up? All right. So my elevator pitch is this is the story of a sweet Christian farm girl who wants to become a virtual reality fighting game champion in the not so distant future. There are 90 pages done so far. I produce about 2 pages a week. It centrally follows the main character, Jane Smith, and we also get a glimpse of her family life. And she visits her friend and begins playing the virtual reality fighting game, and we get a sense for how she is as a fighter. Okay, my basic idea for this character is when I came up with her, it's kind of like I call myself an artist who I accidentally started writing. So I would draw her a lot, but I didn't really know what the story was. And I was thinking a lot about the kind of like Hollywood trope of the strong female protagonist, like she's 100 pounds and she'll just pick up and throw 7-foot tall dudes around like it's nothing. So my idea was, well, okay, what if you took that 100-pound girl, but instead of her just like easily, picking up dudes and throwing them around, what if you actually like stuck with that premise and said, what's a story about a 100-pound girl who wants to fight people about? And then kind of like lights went off in my head, and I had a sense of who she was and what her story would be about.
I am loving these visuals. This is awesome sequential art.
This is thank you. This is drawn in charcoal.
I love the lack of panels.
Yeah. I'm kind of teaching myself how to do this as I go. I had a background in traditional art. I had a background in photorealistic art. I always loved comics, and I did some art classes where we did comics in class. So, I did like little, journal comics, kind of like little short story comics. This is my first attempt at like a long form work. So I draw in charcoal and then use oil pastel for coloring, and I digitally letter and clean up everything.
Nice. Yeah. Like it a lot.
You're doing that same Wizard of Oz thing that Brian Belando does with Pocus Hocus that my friends Alan and Will are putting together, where the color is only there in the unreal sections and the real world is all that black and white sort of a dreary kind of outlook stuff.
You picked that right up. Yeah, definitely. I've got to check that out now.
Yeah, good stuff. I like it.
All right. So more updates every week. And
have you got a link to this?
Yes.
So people can go look at it?
I will tweet. I will send that to you in the chat.
Yeah. Pops wants that link.
If you Google Jane Smith wannabe gladiator, it comes right up, and it's posted on Webtoons. So if you Google like Jane Smith Webtoons, it comes right up. I think I sent it to you in the private chat on StreamYard. Good. Awesome.
You're just doing superb work. This is
Thank you so much.
Really, really solid.
Are you going to keep that on Webtoon?
I'm going to keep it on Webtoons as a way of just like trying to introduce more people to the strip. The plan is eventually to do a crowdfund. I've got a short list of indie comics publishers I really like, so I'll start with my number 1, and then if they don't like it, I'll move down to the number 2 until I find a publisher. And my YouTube channel, I don't know if you guys have checked out my YouTube channel recently. The focus started on comics, and then YouTube's weird, and I've kind of started doing like Sonic and cartoon content because YouTube really likes that kind of content. But I still love comics and still do reviews and such, and that kind of work. So the plan is to try to transition all the kids who like the memes on my channel into comic book
stop
fans.
Don't move on. Stop.
Okay.
Stop.
Sorry.
Go back up. Okay. No, down to the bird. Down to the bird.
Down to the bird. There you go.
Look at that. That's simply marvelous.
Thank you. I love those guys. Yeah.
I am so impressed.
I just love the concept of blind archers. Is like, they're just hitting the target by Zen.
That one is I shamelessly am ripping off of Samurai Jack. I love the Samurai Jack was like a kind of like shaped my concept of what it was to be a man as a child, and the art and the visual storytelling of Samurai Jack is phenomenal. I think the creator once talked about how they believed that a cartoon, there's like a perception that a cartoon is for a kid and it has to be very ADHD, right? People have to talk 99 miles an hour. And they frequently would have like whole episodes with very minimal dialogue, just using sound and using visuals as the main storytelling component throughout an episode. So I had to have a deliberate homage in there somewhere. But I did, even when I do an homage, I try to make it a little bit more my own. So I think the Blind Archers and Samurai Jack are a lot more Egyptian in style, and I went for more like I don't know, Raven meets Ring Wraith vibe for my guys.
You know, though, I've seen one of the newer comics, at least the mainstream DC, Marvel, they won't shut up. And if you look at truly great sequential artists like Moebius, for example, there's whole panels go by where it's a visual medium. You can tell the story through action, and of course the Japanese understand this deeply, but Lone Wolf and Cub, I mean, the whole sequences go by without a word spoken, yet you're riveted by the story. And it is truly a lost art, and it needs to be unlost. It needs to be found again. And I think the stuff you're showing me is just incredible. I knew you were doing good work. I just didn't realize how good. I'm wowed.
Well, thank you, Troy. You're a joy to comics Twitter. We all appreciate it. Hey, Comics Talk with Pops Van Zandt. Nice.
Yep, he's added it to the list, his promotion list there. But Troy, up through and I'll tell you why I know this, because it's a sad tale. But up through 2000, we were actually getting fewer words in our comics, and the reason I know this is because I have no life, and I have a lot of comics, and I went through. I said I wanted to see and prove quantitatively what we were getting for our money. And so I said, well, I've got a long run of Justice League. And I pulled some random issues from the 60s, because it's not that long.
Oh, you're talking about Roy Thomas, whose pages were walls of text. I mean, but I grabbed I grabbed a run of 12 Justice League from the 70s, 12 from the 80s, 12 from the 90s, and 12 from the 2000s, because that's when it was. And I sat down and I counted how many stories was in each 12-issue run at random, how many panels, how many pages, how many panels, and how many words, and what the cover costs were, and what that was adjusted for inflation. And what I found was that it stayed pretty even until the 90s, and then the word count went up, or rather the word count went down, the panel count went down, and the number of stories went down, because suddenly we were getting 6-issue stories instead of 2 stories per issue. And the math inverted, and what we were paying per word skyrocketed, and what we were paying for page and panel skyrocketed. Now, of course, everybody said, "Oh, look, RJ just discovered that comic prices went up." I'm like, "No, you don't understand. I've adjusted this across the board. This is an even playing field." It's like, if you bought both comics for the same price, you're getting a better deal for the older one than you are for the newer one in terms of content and how much entertainment value you're getting quantitatively. We can prove it.
Which happens in all media right now, right? I mean, you had The Hobbit was one book, and then we had to make 3 movies out of it.
Oh yeah. Well,
now The Lord of the Rings was at least 3 books.
And that's and it's a weird thing happening in pop culture where we don't have. And Howard Warshaw was on a Blast from the Bunker with us 2 weeks ago, and he talked about this. We don't have time to sit down and commit to a 2-hour movie. But we'll sit down and watch 8 hours of a series, because it's still one long form storytelling visually, because we just get sucked into it. But we won't commit to 2-hour movie. I don't have time for that. Wonder what this half hour of Stranger Things is going to be like.
Yep. And then I'll binge watch them right after another, but I know I can always stop, right? I always know there's a logical stopping point.
So RJ, something interesting about your observation is it kind of cuts counter to the prevailing narrative of a lot of comics Twitter discussions. So one of the arguments is like a Brian Michael Bendis, for example. He'll stick he'll stick a word balloon everywhere.
He's throwing the curve off.
Yeah. So I have a thought on your observation there, and then I kind of want to hear you expand on that thought a bit. So I guess my observation would be when I read 50s comics or especially Stan Lee comics, the narrator is doing a lot of work. So the narrator will kind of help explain, the sciencey stuff or how time travel works or what have you. So we don't have to spend page after page showing how time travel works. And what was nice about that is it kind of let Stan Lee would take over and explain some things, and then Jack Kirby would take over and draw out the action scene. So it was a nice balance. Do you think that modern comics lack that balance, or how do you find that balance then between like word dense content and visually dense content?
There is a balance that needs to be struck. I do want to say real quick that the mic stand is getting ready to start here at the top of the hour. So for people who are interested in the niche news, Mike is getting ready to do his thing. But stay here. Go sub later and catch it on replay. The thing was there was more dialogue and more narrative. Meanwhile, back at the Hall of Justice, the Pied Piper is planting a bomb behind the bushes. But that's a bad example of where I'm going, because I was going to say it was easier to read and more fun dialogue and narrative. Because it was, while it was still more narrative and more dialogue, there was more action going on. It wasn't this, back and forth, the people barely moved 2.5 pages of two heads over a table drinking tea, which, is what comics have, devolved into.
They become TV shows, really.
Yeah. This is Friends with capes sometimes. And honestly, it's like, okay, and you can tell the artists sometimes are getting bored. You mentioned Brian Michael Bendis. He did that run on Action Comics and that horrible thing he did to Legion of Superheroes. But he was doing that with John Romita Jr. And I was picking up a couple of issues here and there, and it's like, wow, he really likes that one word, because there was a scene where John Kent comes back from the future where the Legion of Superheroes are. And I swear, I am not exaggerating here, is like there was a narrative box that says, flying in from the future and the Legion of Superheroes. Hi, Dad. I just flew in from the future with the Legion of Superheroes. I came with Brainiac 5. He's from the future with the Legion of Superheroes. He said it 3 times in that one big panel, the future where the Legion of Superheroes are. It's like, we get it, Brian. But the artwork was sketchy. It was like he just whipped it out on a napkin and turned it out. Like, wow, John Romita Jr. is losing it. And then I saw the story that he did in the Catwoman 80th anniversary. I was like, this is really good art. Who did this? Oh, geez, that's J.R.J. And that's when I figured it out. He's bored because the story for Catwoman was a good story and he turned in good art. Nobody, no artist in comics who wants to draw fight scenes and action scenes wants to draw people standing around and talking about the problem. You just scratch that out and move on to the next one. Not nearly as bad as that beautiful Ivan Reyes picture of Superman's profile that just got buried behind word balloons in a stack. Again, Brian Michael Bendis's many sins. So if we have good writing, I think it'd be okay to have some balloons in there in the story.
Well, of course, you're talking about that's the point, isn't it? To integrate, and achieve balance, and it as a pacing device and so on. Of course, I'm just fixated on what I'm seeing on screen right now. I just can't get over it. I just think
it's really good.
I think about what's interesting is I think about this problem when I read comics, and then I have to think about the problem again when I make comics, and it's a very different problem.
It's a shift in gears, mental gears. I have a editing mode as opposed to a writing mode, and I actually I can almost feel my mind internally, the analytical side retreating as I try to think creatively.
Yeah,
vice versa.
When I'm in the studio, I tend to take whatever I had in my script and I try to turn paragraphs into sentences. And so I think it's partially because I actually draw the speech balloons as part of the art. So I basically plan out where the speech balloons are going to be in my pencil phase. Sometimes I do like a neat trick and I'll like draw the speech balloons on a separate page and I can Photoshop them and adjust them. That way I'm not 100% committed to them.
Look at the forced perspective shot on that. That's just really cool.
I love forced perspective. And I got a lot better too. I'm actually cringing a little bit looking at these pages because this was when I was still learning.
No, but it really comes through on that. I'm sorry. I sound like such a fanboy.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right. So I learned digital coloring over time working on this, and I found ways to like brighten it a lot more than I had in the early pages. So part of me is tempted to go back and recolor the first 20 pages or so.
This reminds me of Kazu Kabuishi's Amulet series if he had done it in colored pencil instead of digital ink and color.
Nice. I'm familiar with the creator. I haven't picked up Amulet yet, but I hear it widely praised in the young adult graphic novel market. So it's on my short list.
Yeah. Speaking of art, we know that Troy, you and Troy are both artists. Marty, a lot of Marty's art gets washed away in the rain because he used to do chalk art on sidewalks. And I forever regret the fact that I am, because of all the moves I've gone through and because of, I don't know, I'm not home. Movers get directed to do things. Sexy things disappear. I no longer have that stipple work Batgirl print. Thank God I didn't have the original.
You don't have it? I can get you another one. I have some in the basement still.
Seriously?
I seriously do.
You know what? We were 30 years ahead of our time on that because that's something that crowdfunding would have just gobbled right up.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's still in my basement. I saw them the other day, and I was like, okay, good. They're sedate enough that I'm not embarrassed for my 16-year-old daughter to see it, because they were bordering on risque, right? And
they were very risque. What did we had a name for that too?
Heroes Unmasked.
That's right. We did.
I told you. Like I said, I saw some of it just the other day. If we do another session, I'll happily. I need to digitize what I have, and then I could show it to you on the screen.
Oh, Marty, digitize what you have and then sell them as prints. Run a crowdfunder and just say, hey, here they are. Buy the prints.
See, I need somebody that's into making money because I don't know how to do that.
Well, I'm into it, but I don't know how to do it.
Do you know Redbubble, Marty?
Who?
Redbubble.
No.
They're pretty neat. It's basically just like you just like upload your art and they'll put it on, they'll put it on shirts, they'll put it on stickers. They have like a million different schlocky items you can get, but you can get some nice prints from them too. What I like about them is they will aggressively advertise your art if you use certain keywords. So I think that DC doesn't like Redbubble. So if you say something like, "Hey, it's Batgirl," DC will like do a takedown request. But if it's nondescript enough, if it's just some girl in a bat-like costume, you could probably probably still get away with it.
Yeah. So back in the day, when I did those, they were like I think pinups, and then they would be but with like superhero themed outfits, but they weren't right. But they weren't actually it didn't have the whole Superman symbol. It wouldn't have the whole Batman symbol. So it was like, oh wait, that's supposed to be Batgirl, but you couldn't prove it.
Yeah, he drew it. For instance, he did a whole series of them, but the Batgirl one is burned in my brain. She had the bikini bottoms on. They were I don't even think they showed up on the picture because it was a waist up picture. But she had RJ,
I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna digitize it, and I will send you a digital copy so at least you can have it.
Oh, I need them. I need them in my life. But she had like a black bikini top on with yellow bats on it, and she was reaching back and undoing the thing. So it's sort of that risque pinup kind of thing. But the thing about Marty's art here was that he was using a stippling technique for most of it, which means some straight lines, but the rest of the time he was just taking his pen and putting dot, 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 dot. I know y'all know what stippling means, but for the folks in the chat. And I was like, I'd watch him do this sometimes. I would go insane, and he would hide little patterns in their hair out of the dots. So you had S's in Supergirl's hair for the Supergirl symbol and stuff.
RJ, your memory is scary.
And the red on Barbara Gordon Batgirl's hair was chef's kiss. I don't know what color you used.
Totally scaring me that you can remember that. Wow.
You did. I think you did a Wonder Woman as well.
I think I did. I did do Wonder Woman, Batgirl, Supergirl,
Catwoman?
Poison Ivy.
Poison Ivy, yes. Oh my God.
I did a Catwoman. I don't remember if I did a Catwoman.
Okay, if they're all there, you've got to scan these things. Yes, you need to
Well,
put those on Redbubble.
talking about old stuff, right? Trying to do different things. So I never learned to do comic art like you did there, Marmaduke. Love it, by the way, love it. I wanted to do. I read comics when I grew up. I went to Art and Design High School, which is a art vocational high school in Manhattan. And so 4 hours out of every day we had art, and you usually had the artists that like to draw animals and paint, or you had the ones that like to do comic books. I mean, those were the two major groups.
Yeah.
And so I was more in the painting, but I was doing like gothic and horror paintings and different. I was a little off crazy kind of stuff. But I had friends that actually became professional comic book artists. That's what they did with their lives, and that's all they would draw. So I never got there, although I enjoyed it. And Troy and I actually did a little.
Do you incorporate illustrations into things like the Warp King?
To the time, no. So on this one, I helped design the cover, and actually, like the character on it is actually from a photo of my son. But I didn't. I have no. It's a flat out novel. There's no artwork. I didn't bother to do any drawings on like each chapter. It's I was to me it's like two different creative processes. I have trouble writing and then thinking art at the same time. There, one is a different type of release.
Yeah.
And like I said, I do. RJ said I still do chalk draw. I go out to like my church, and I'll do on the sidewalk a chalk drawing for Easter. My wife actually asked me, that's how I know that I still have it, because my wife asked me to do a chalk drawing at the end of our driveway, right? Your wife will not ask you to do anything on the driveway if it's lousy. She just tells you, no, honey, it's really nice, but no, please don't do anything for me. She actually asked us to do, and what I do is I have my kids do it with me. So my 16-year-old, and she was 15, 14, 13-year-old, but we'll go together and we chalk it out and we fill it all in, and it's beautiful and it's great. And then the fun part is, and I've done this since RJ knew me 30 years ago. The fun part is people go, oh, it's so nice. It's so nice, but it's going to rain. It's going to rain. We know it's going to rain, and it's going to all wash away, which is the beauty in my mind, because enjoy it while it's there, and it's going to wash away. It's going to be gone. And here's a weird thing. We would do them because you'd have church on Saturday and Sunday. So that Saturday morning, we'd go sneak out and we do the chalk drawing. We just did one at a local church up here in a whole different town. But you sneak out early Saturday, you do the chalk drawing, and then you sneak away. I don't know how many times I can tell you that they forecasted rain for Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, Sunday morning. I've never had a chalk drawing yet that got washed away before the weekend is over. If they said it's going to pour, it did not rain on that chalk drawing until all the masses were done and Monday came, and then it could deluge, but they've never been washed away. And I would tell anybody that asks when they say, oh, but it's going to, I said, hey, if it gets washed away, it gets washed away. But not one of them has ever been washed away.
Marty, I have a question about how you work with your daughter. So you mentioned that you've been working on the book for 10 years. Your daughter contributed like the idea into the first chapters of it. So I worked as a tutor. So, I made a lot of comics with kids. So I'm always fascinated by that process. Was it more like your daughter came up with this story and asked you to help, or was it like the two of you were goofing around and you came up with it together? What was the back and forth like?
So I also do public speaking, and one of the things I love to talk about is finding your purpose and finding your calling in life. And I talk about goal setting, and I use my daughter, my oldest daughter, for a story about goal setting, and I'll shorten it as fast as I can. So she would write a story, start writing a story, and she'd write 1, 2, 3 chapters, give it to me. I'd read it, I'd get excited. This one, she was a young teenager, and I would edit it and I'd hand it back to her and I say, I can't wait. Get me the next chapter. Give me the next chapter. And she goes, oh, well, here. And I go, oh, you're up to chapter 4. I can't wait. She goes, no, this is a different story. I go, okay, that's all right. So I read it. I get excited and I edit it and I hand it back to her. And she goes, oh, here's another one. I go, wait, where's the first one? She goes, no, I don't. I just got tired of that. I'm writing this new one now. And
I'm an idea guy, Dad.
oh my gosh. So after about 3 or 4 of those, or 5 or 6, or who knows how many times that she would start but never finish, I told her, I said, okay, honey, I love you. I love your writing. I can't wait for you to finish the book. In fact, I'm going to, though. I'm not going to read anything else you write. I'm not going to edit anything else you write until you actually finish a story. I said, it doesn't have to be polished, but you only give me 3 chapters ever. I need to see the whole story. I want to see the whole first draft. If you don't have a first draft, don't show it to me.
Beginning, middle, and end. Yeah, keyword on end.
Oh, exactly. She finally did it. We edited it, had other people read it, had other people edit it, and I ended up publishing it for her. And I enjoyed that experience so much. I actually created, and like Troy, I started a company. It's K4K Books. I think it's an outstanding idea that I've not had the time to do anything else with, but started. And the concept is it's K4K, kids for kids, and it's kidsforkids.books.com. It is not a nonprofit because I want to pay the kids and I want them to be able to say they were published by a publisher that pays for them, right? Pays for their book. And the idea, though, is that I want kids. They have to be 18 or younger, and they have to want to write. And we team them with the aunt or a parent or a teacher. And we also have college students that will be editors that works with them. We have artists that will like design their book cover and it may be some inside art. And everybody gets paid. But it's all about encouraging these kids to actually finish writing a story and write a book. And then after it's done and it's been edited by us and we think it's good enough, we'll publish it. And so she had me come up with, that's where that business idea came from. And so for this book that you asked me about, I'll get back to it. This book, she had an idea for a book. I want to write a book. I've always wanted to write novels because my dad had a bookshelf of books. He loved reading. And so my dream was always to write a book my dad could read that I wrote. I thought that was just the greatest gift I could do. I just thought it would be awesome. That was my momentum, my catalyst for it. So she had ideas and I was lacking ideas. I want to write, but I didn't have an idea. So she gave me the idea for the book and she had sketched out the first 3 chapters. So I grabbed them and then my job was to write the book from it. So I wrote the book from it, you know, giving her chapters as I went so she could give me ideas and I bounced ideas. And the best thing that she did for the rest of the book was help me work through ideas. Right? I said, I want this to happen. And she goes, well, how about this? And how about that? And we'd bounce ideas off of each other. And I'm still doing that now with the book I'm writing right now. I'm bouncing ideas off of her and she gives me ideas back. And, you know, they eventually come out to being whatever the book is going to come out to be. It's this blend of her ideas and her inputs. So that's mostly what we've been doing as far as writing together.
What I love about the idea is, in my experience, when you work with kids, especially little kids, they're idea generating machines, but they have no idea what to do with the ideas, right? Like it's 80 of the coolest supervillains and superheroes you've ever heard in a row, but maybe none of them have origin stories or they're all disconnected, right? It's just an explosion. If you're lucky, a kid who has maybe more of a sense of narrative, or a kid who's starting to read has a sense of beginning, middle, and end. I did a presentation for the University of Florida on children's art. And I had this fantastic, it's my favorite children's story I've ever had, where it ends with, and they all lived happily ever after. And then she changed her mind and she added an extra idea that changed the ending completely, so that it became it went from, and they all lived happily ever after, to being a thrilling cliffhanger. And then she was done. She didn't know what to do after that. So I've never found out what happened to the good guys and bad guys at the end of that story.
You know, DC Comics used to take advantage of that energy and creativity that kids have. Do you remember a series called Dial H for Hero?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never read it, but I saw it advertised. Like they would always cross promote their books in their main books.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the premise?
So Dial H for Hero was these two teenagers, and they had the H dial. They had found the H dial. Well, Robbie Reed found it first, just to be completely geeky about this. But when I was reading it in Adventure Comics, I can't remember. It was a boy and a girl, middle teenagers. They were friends, nothing more than that, it seemed like. And their town was always just beset by supervillains. So whenever there was something that needed to be done, they would get out their H dial. He had one in his pocket. She wore one on a necklace, and it just had H, E, R, and O, like an old telephone dial, and you would dial it. And they would turn into a random superhero with a set of superpowers. And every time they did this, he'd be like, hey, I'm, Envelope Man. And they would have the little editor's box that says Envelope Man was sent in by, Jimmy Jones of, Tilden, Illinois, age 14. And it was like, if you wanted to have your superhero show up, you would just send them a sketch, your own drawing, and then the DC artists would take your power set and your drawing, and they would turn it into a real character in the story for that temporary amount of time.
I love that. The other thing I'm thinking of is Capcom. Capcom would invite kids to submit robot designs, and kids would send in things like a fan robot, a jungle robot, and they used those drawings as the basis for a lot of characters in the video games. I got a request to look up this book by Martin.
Yeah, I was getting ready to do it, but you took over. I'm like, oh, he's got it. So we can all see the private chat, by the way.
So we were talking about my daughter, my older daughter. She helped me do chalk drawings when she was a little kid, and she even helped me do drawings when she was older. And I taught them art. She became pretty good. She does artwork, as well as me, wanting to write and do artwork, which would make you think comics would be perfect. But she did this one with her husband. And the funny thing is, he wrote the story and she did all the artwork. And so, again, a published book, but it's a kid's picture book. So it's just, I thought I'd share it because you were asking me about writing and her writing. And I just told you a story about her finally finishing a book. Her book is, what was the name of that? A Walk in the Woods was the paperback novel that I published for her first finally finishing that book. And then she did a kid's picture book just recently. And I've been pushing her to do more because her husband has all these ideas, right? He has picture book ideas and she could do the artwork and put it together. She has book ideas and I'm happy to write those. Funny though, I was going to say that way back, I tried drawing a comic, which the famous Troy Reiser did the writing of. I found my stack of panels from that story we were writing. You
still have that?
I still have that, all black and white.
Indiegogo, here we come.
A lot of inks. That's another one I'll have to send to Troy, maybe if he doesn't have a copy of it anymore. My artwork did not do any justice to Troy's writing, but I had never done, like you are learning Marmaduke. You said drawing it, you're learning it as you go. I was learning it as I go, and it was my first attempt, and I haven't had the guts to do a second attempt. So that never went anywhere because it was my very first attempt. So you can imagine it needed a lot of work, but it was just so much fun.
That's the thing that scares me about sequential art is writing. Traditionally, you write until you get stuck and you go back and rewrite. With sequential art, you're kind of screwed if you haven't figured this out already.
Yeah, no, this is bringing back so many artistic memories, and I've been just so busy writing and teaching chess that I haven't even thought about doing more artwork per se.
I got to pitch you on something. This is for after I finish James Smith. Want to be glad to hear. I would love to do a series where it's chess, but the gag of the series is that all the characters take chess as seriously as like any anime character would take a sword battle. So they'll have to be like over the top reaction shots. They'll have to be, like anime characters asking people to explain to them what do the horses do? And they'll be like super serious explanations of it all. Maybe like with Bobby Fischer or something, but I completely love the idea of chess as a element in a narrative. So
and your character,
my chatters, my viewers know, and Troy knows, and I know RJ knows, I love collaborating because I'm a flaming E when it comes to Myers-Briggs, which means I don't like to do anything alone and anything. I'll ask strangers to sit down and eat dinner with me if I'm out of town because I don't like to do anything alone. So, if you have something you want to collaborate on, you have a willing collaborator for pretty much anything that's legal, and hopefully
cool.
that I wouldn't be embarrassed to show my kids.
Because I've been sitting on a children's picture book and I can't draw, and I'm ashamed to submit it anywhere because I'm like, I'm used to writing books. When you write a picture book, it's literally 2 pieces of paper. I'm like, how do you? Marmaduke fan has a clone.
Yes, hey, RJ, if you like my daughter's artwork, you could collaborate with her.
I do like it because it's exactly the kind of art style. Because I was thinking that it would go well as a sort of a P.D. Eastman kind of story.
Okay.
The whole "Are you my mother" kind of style.
I think you'd like it. Check it out. I'll send you the $10 if you want. But check out the Farmer's.
I've already put one of them in my in basket, so it's
you're the man.
Not a big problem there. But yeah, Marmaduke, your characters, they need to be doing the if you're going to go anime and have them be serious, then they have to do the anime traditional announce your fight move before you actually pull it off, like Bishop to Queen 3,
right?
With the force perspective.
Force perspective, speed lines, and the challenge of it, of the writing is that it has to be a game that you can replay in real life, and
it has to be legal.
Out.
We'll make sure that all the chess moves. So every day right now, you I'm sure you don't know because you're not like me. You're not a chess teacher, chess fan, not a chess streamer. In fact, I'm co-streaming this with my stream because I normally stream at this hour. And all my viewers are chess. They know that's all I stream right now.
I thought you couldn't get fans on Twitch unless you were doing it inside of a ball pit.
You can't get what on Twitch?
No,
that's not or bathtub or pool. No, that's not true. Not true. Look at so like Hikaru Nakamura, who is a U.S. champion chess player, 5-time U.S. champion, is in the candidates. Is like the biggest chess streamer in the world right now. He makes a living doing nothing but streaming chess. Although if he comes in second or third, he's going to make some money in the candidates tournament, probably in fourth or fifth. But he has tens of thousands of people, if not millions, from time to time watching him on Twitch. And all he does is talk chess and play chess, and it's amazing. I'll tell you about him someday if you like. But the candidates is going on right now. And the candidates, whoever wins that, will be able to challenge Magnus Carlsen for the championship of the world. So if you're talking about serious people that take chess super seriously, every one of the candidates obviously do because they're making a living at it. There are professional chess players, everything from an international master all the way up to a grandmaster, that they are trying to make a living playing chess, teaching chess, writing books about chess. It's chess, 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 chess. I'm not making a living streaming. I just enjoy teaching. But your chess anime idea.
Yeah.
They're excited. They're like, yes, chess anime, bring it on.
Yeah, because he's simul streaming to his chess channel right now.
All right.
To his fans.
I'll have to just write. I'll just have to write up the first chapter then. So yeah, I'll take the route that Martin's daughter took.
You know what? Did you guys see the Netflix Queen's Gambit?
Yeah, I did watch that. Yeah.
All right. So what I'm envisioning is in the Netflix Queen's Gambit, they had Bruce Pandolfini, who actually helped with the writing of the original book, but they also had Gary Kasparov, which is like one of the most famous world champions. He's still around. He still talks. He doesn't play in the candidates or trying to win the world championship anymore because it's like every sport. You get too old and you can't compete with the young ones. were their advisors for that show to make it as realistic as possible. So I can be your advisor for the chess anime story. You come up with the story, and I will help you make it authentic from the chess side.
Nice.
Cool.
All right, one more question. One more chess-related question from Artie. Do you know Chess Simp?
Chess who?
Chess Simp.
How do you spell it? Put in the chat for me, because I don't know.
The word chess and then the word SIMP.
No.
All right. He does an interesting thing where he asks his viewers to come up with like a joke chess game for him. So they'll like tell him, play chess, but you're only allowed to move your pieces one square at a time, or something completely ridiculous like that. And then he'll actually try to like play someone and beat them with that ridiculous handicap. And about half the time he can still win because he's good enough.
Okay. Yeah, my chat knows who you're talking about. They say he does amazing chess content on YouTube.
So he's like the Minnesota Fats of chess.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And Hikaru Nakamura, actually, even some international masters, which are way below grandmasters, they'll even play in tournaments online on their stream, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm going to play all gambits. I'm going to play a different gambit every game." And gambits are risky because you're throwing away material, and it would be like, say we're going to play 5-on-5 basketball, but we'll only play with 4 people. I'm going to give you an edge to start with, and I'm still going to beat you.
It was you that turned me on to the Sokolsky Gambit. It was you that showed me Bobby Fischer's work on the King's Gambit, where he claimed he had busted it and he hadn't. And I would play the King's Gambit continually when I was deep into chess, and it would make people so frustrated when I'd beat them. I mean, I read books on it. I was like completely immersed in the King's Gambit of all things. It was like a fixation. And
good fixation to have.
Yeah, well, it was
move the bishop out, move the king over, castle. You're done. He's in a big fence.
I had to back off on that kind of thing, simply to get other stuff done. It was just a. They'll do different things. Hikaru Nakamura will play like what they call the bomb cloud, where it's ridiculous, right? You move your king's pawn, and then you move the king second move. And then you move the queen over to where the king belongs. Then you put the king where the queen belongs. So you can't castle, and you just spent 3 moves doing nothing but switching your king and queen. And then he'll still proceed to beat the pants off of his opponents.
Yeah.
Because he's a super grandmaster playing for the chance to play for the world championship. And as you go down, even there's super grandmasters, and then there's just grandmasters. And there's such a chasm between the ability levels there. And then you have grandmasters to international masters, gigantic chasm there. International masters to national masters, chasm there. National masters to experts, experts to club A. I finally fit onto the chart. Then you have club B, club C, club D, and beginners. It's just so wide, the breadth of ability in chess like, and that's why I think it's a sport, just like any pro sport. You can have kids that could play pretty good little league baseball or maybe t-ball, and then you could, or you could do, I was a really good high school player, but I couldn't even make it on the college team, or maybe you made it on a college team, but it's a class AAA, it's like a school with 5 people in it. And then you have the top of the line playing for the World Series of baseball in college. And then you have how many of those can actually become a pro player or even a club player, right? And a pro player, but not in the big leagues. And then you have the big leagues, and then you have the all-stars. You have that same breadth for chess all the way across. Great stuff.
I haven't played chess in years. I used to play when computers were a new thing. They had a game called Battle Chess. Which
yes.
I played. It was such fun. It was like you'd make your move, and then Troy, I don't know if you saw it or not, but the figures were your pawns actually would get up and walk to the square.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they'd fight each other. And sometimes you could put it on cheat mode where you'd move, and then you'd hear this achoo, and your whole screen would go green, and then it would just kind of like drip down. And as it cleared off, the pieces were in a different order because the computer cheated and swapped things around. or a shark would come out of the board and swallow one of your pawns. Um,
Well, you know, going back to like when Marty was talking about different levels, um, one of the things about writing science fiction and to execute properly is that I have to have my head around some pretty high end concepts. So I've been reading books on physics. I've been reading John Stuart Bell. I've been reading, and that one of the things that reminded me of, say, Kasparov and Karpov back in the day, Fisher and Spassky, in the early days of physics, when there was Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr, and they are titans. If, for lack of a better word, they are titans. These are men who can conceptualize the universe, and just extraordinary. And I didn't realize how extraordinary until I started actually reading up on the subject. But I mean, Einstein was instrumental in essentially the discovery of quantum mechanics, and he refuted it. He didn't. There were aspects of it that bothered him so much that put him at odds with Niels Bohr, who was the father of quantum physics, and they remained friends. But there were these two giants, you know, essentially battling it out. And the thing that got them, the reason why they were fighting, for lack of a better word, is because Einstein, he wanted to apply classical physics to this new world that they were exploring intellectually, mathematically, theoretically, and they didn't apply. And there's an aspect, quantum entanglement, that Einstein referred to as spooky action at a distance. It's impossible. And so they're at loggerheads with each other. And it turned out Boris was right. He was right on not about everything. His model of the nucleus, for example, wasn't completely accurate. It was kind of patchwork. And others later finished that. But it's been an intellectual exploration for me, but it's also um, the whole reason I'm doing it is that for the purposes of the novel that I'm writing, I need to have my head around quantum physics, you know, at least the fundamentals. But it opened a door for a whole world. I'm reading J.S. Bell's Speakable and Unspeakable in Quantum Mechanics. Yeah, I know it sounds like I'm the most boring person in the world, but this man is riveting. Bell's theorem is one of the most, in my view, kids should not be able to graduate from high school unless they understand at least the rudiments of Bell's theorem and what it means and what it implies and so the beauty of writing science fiction is you can explore these ideas. And I'm I'm no intellectual heavyweight, but I've been blessed to have met several and to have worked with a few. And you talk about these chess grandmasters and they see what others can't.
By far.
And I would think that'd be both blessing and curse. I asked a friend of mine many years ago that a certified genius. He's been big in Mensa for years, and we've lost touch. But he could conceptualize, software architecture to the granular level in his head, and he would be used as a highway department consulted with him on the design of the infrastructure they were building because of his skill set. Just an extraordinary man. I said, man, it must be rough for you. We all must seem like children. His mother told me his IQ because he was too humble to ever speak it, and which was 179. Which puts him in which puts him in the tiniest percentile of human beings alive, and a great guy. They always present extremely smart people as being goofballs, and when actually they've done a study and know that isn't the case. That the most intelligent people are generally pretty grounded and ordinary. They're not eccentric. They're not goofballs. They're actually. And I asked him. I said, "Man, how do you do it? I mean, you feel like you're surrounded by children." And he's like, "No, you don't understand. His father was an electrician. His mom worked as not a menial job, but they're both working people, and they worked hard to help him get through college and everything else. And he goes, "There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom." And he, to his credit, I'm not going to drop his name because he's not around, but a truly extraordinary guy. And he had an element of humility. Now, sometimes you encounter the brightest guy in the room who happens to be a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he knows he's the brightest guy in the room.
And a lot of that has to do with social skills. I mean, my artistic mentor, Ellie Siskind, this is true of all of us, and this is why I love this forum so much, this actually talking ideas, art. All of us are in a solitary business. We are all alone most of the time, I would guess. At least I can only speak for myself. But when I had this studio, my commercial studio on Raymond Street in Indianapolis, across from Garfield Park, and I was very close to Ellie at the time, and she was a great painter. I mean, she had shows in New York. She was that high speed. But I wouldn't hear from her. Then she'd call me and she'd say, and I'd talk to her. She goes, "You're getting weird." She goes, "Let's go out for coffee. Let's go out and hear people, be around people for a while. So it's good for you." And that's, the cure for being weird. And that's the problem, I think, with a lot of people who lead. If you're up in your own head all the time, you need to get out of it, and to get out and socialize in the real world with real people. If you look at a lot of the craziness on the internet, it's a direct result of people not being out in the world, connecting.
Or connecting with just the people who think like them, so it makes that crazy bubble just a little bit bigger and normalizes to themselves that other people believe the same thing.
Crazy is contagious. Crazy is contagious. The army can tell you that.
Stupidity, by the way.
I'm sorry?
So is stupidity, by the way.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, dumb ideas propagate just like every other bad meme. It's like that. Bad ideas are viral.
It's funny that you're telling us, the stuff that you're reading now to write something else. You always hear that adage, write what you know. I'm like, can you imagine how boring it would be if everybody just wrote what they know?
Write what you want to know.
Yeah, because writers are they're autodidactic. Which is one of my favorite words because I get to explain to the chat what it means. It means you teach yourself what it is that you need to know by yourself. When I wrote Continental Divide, the second Destroyer book I did, I basically, there was this villain who exists in the Destroyer universe called Mr. Gordons. He's a fabricator android. He becomes a part of something, literally, and then he is that something. So he's like a shapeshifter, for lack of a better term. And what was happening was he was becoming part of bridges and then disassembling them from the inside out so that they would just fall. And I was like, when I started to describe it, like, I can't just say, nuts and bolts and girders, because if, bridges have special parts, then I'm going to look like an idiot to somebody who knows what bridges are made out of. So I, got on the phone and literally called the St. Louis Bridge Company and said, I need to talk to an engineer. And I told him what I was doing. I said, look, I'm writing a book and I need to know the parts of bridges. I promise you I'm not trying to destroy a bridge, but I need to know what these things are. And he's like, oh yeah, and it turns out they literally are called nuts and bolts. They're just a lot bigger.
They're big bolts and big nuts.
They're big bolts. But, we got suspension cables and other things that were brought into it. I'm like, thank you very much. I sent him a copy of the book, and he emailed back that he enjoyed the book, became a fan, and bought the next book. So I'm like, yeah, that's how it's supposed to work.
I ran into this problem, right? I've already run into this problem writing my comic because it takes place in a video game world. And so I think, well, okay, I got to know something about how video games work, right? So then before I know it, I'm reading about AI and them debating about whether computers can have souls or not, right? Right? You fall down the rabbit hole really quick. But then the second
jurors to handle.
Yeah, the second most useful resource is like family and friends, right? So if it's like so my character's a farm girl. Wait a second, how do you ride a horse? How does that work? I need to ask my sister, who used to love horses in high school, how this stuff works, right? So it's either like secrets of the universe and big brainy books, or just your family and friends to help you desperately supplement your knowledge of the world.
Yeah. Hey, Marmaduke.
Yeah.
if you want, I too also have a character, actually the antagonist in the story, who's an AI. But so I had to do research on it. Uh, Actually, I went into a lot more depth than what I had anticipated. But the best writer that I've found on the topic for that is for general audiences is a very um, respected scientist, Margaret Bowden, Boden.
BODEN.
Um,
Okay.
her work on explaining artificial intelligence to people like me was crucial. I couldn't. I mean, there's a plethora of books on the topic, but many of one thing you're going to find is a lot of them really don't know what they're talking about, which is annoying. But she does, and she's extraordinary. Um, they even have a small summary book of hers, a kind of a condensed version for people like me who are just trying to do some quick research.
Yeah.
And it works out famously. I strongly recommend her work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will look into that.
Well, when he said when he talked about when Marmaduke fan talked about AIs and whether or not they could have souls, it put me immediately in mind of your story, "Love and the Forever Machine," which was in The Devil You Know, the first anthology we did, because that was the whole point. Was the AI had developed to a point that Lucifer took notice. There was a new life, and it was ripe to be taken advantage of, which is my segue for displaying The Devil You Know Better. Which is already on Amazon in paperback, and I need to convert that this weekend to Moby so that we can get the ebook version out there, because a lot of people have been asking. But this version is the hardcover, which is only on Indiegogo. Will be going for another 36 days. I'm going to extend it for 30 days once that 6 days is up, and no in demand. It's going to be cut off right then. It's going to be signed, numbered. Mike Barron and Hart Fisher are both going to be putting their names on this book. And yeah, it's going to be an inch wider and an inch taller than the paperback version, so it'll be fewer pages. And we're still trying to hit those stretch goals so we can get those Stefano Cardacelli.
Yes, I want my story illustrated, please.
Yes, you will get the first. Did you see the picture that he used, that he drew up for it?
Are you asking me? Of course I have. Yeah.
Okay, I sent it to you. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. The thing that struck me most about his style, it's got kind of a loose Ben Templesmith kind of a look, and I just adore it. I think it's amazingly well executed. It's high quality work, and I want it. I want it for my story. Make it happen.
Look at this. Okay, he's got that's 2 fingers. Yeah, he's got that book. Look at that. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, and when the first book came out and it was like the devil's fist holding the contract, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, save that artwork, fellas, because I know exactly what the next cover is going to be. So I lost my train of thought.
I got to read my Troy Reiser story.
Absolutely, you should always do that. I've been reading them since Rock, Paper, Scissors, which I still have, by the way.
Scissors, paper, rock, by the way, but. Yeah.
Oh, I play the game differently, but I don't have the book in front of me.
It's out of print, if you can imagine.
It is out of print. I did know it was SPR, so I should have known that.
I can run and get the book quickly, but I can't run and get you that artwork. So I will have to digitize it and send it to you.
No, I've got I have copies that I've kept back, part of my estate when I die. I may bring. Yeah, well, there's several stories I think that in that my first collection that had real merit. Some I kind of, but I'm older now, and I'm not going to be unfair to the younger me. That's yes, several decades had passed. The kids were toddlers, and I was living a different life then. But no, I'm not going to beat up younger me at all. I think for where I was and who I was at the time, I think I did a pretty good job.
I was going to say, you beat him up enough when you were there.
Yeah, well, live and learn.
Absolutely. So yeah, the picture I put up there, the campaign for The Devil You Know Better, folks in the chat, if you are wanting to help out the channel, the link to that is right below this video. That'll take you to Indiegogo. It's a very simple Indiegogo. It's one tier. It's the book. So there you go. It's a $25 hardcover, and like I said, it's a flexible goal, which means we're printing to order however many are ordered, and they will be 1 of X, 2 of X, 3 of X, and you'll get them in the order of your backing.
So, well, while we're doing plugs, I want to insert
yes,
this real quick.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, my Kursova magazine has accepted 2 stories of mine for different editions. Obviously, the first one that they accepted was a Halloween-themed horror story called Pick Trick, which I thought was. Now, imagine the words. If it doesn't have context for you, imagine the words being screamed by demons with Ben Cooper mask-like faces. Pick trick, screeching it. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing. I would never be good for writing a children's story. I am not the guy. I would.
Or for making those children's stories that scar the children and they remember it for life.
Yeah, well, there you go. I'm your man for that, because I don't think I do. I guess it's where the dark side of my nature finds expression, but but I think that that's a good piece of work, though, and I'm very proud of the Kingman deal in the Devil You Know Better. I'm very proud of that story, and then the third story the second story Kursova is publishing. Not a date yet set for that one, but it's definitely on their ledger. Starring Hedy Lamarr. It's where Stanley Kubrick, Andy Warhol, and Hedy Lamarr saved the world from an alien invader. And I think it works. I think it I was tempted to take it to novella length, but I thought, no, the story's done, and I may write a sequel or a continuation of it at some point in the future. Depends on how.
You telling me about that when you were first getting it put together for a different anthology that kind of fell apart. I think Hedy Lamarr as a protagonist would be great. I know that.
Yes, she's actually the head of the organization that's countering the alien menace. And
I would love to see something done with her, and I challenge you on this to write something and submit it to Dynamite Comics, because in that same period, fighting those same aliens, they're always doing the Betty Page comics, and it would be fun to see Hedy Lamarr and Betty Page on the page together, so to speak.
Yeah, but then you'd have to wrestle with Hedy's family. Her estate is very jealous of her image, and I mean, I can put her in the title all day long, but I don't name her by name in the story. I didn't want to. I mean, for God's sakes, it's starring Hedy Lamarr. You know who she is, but I wasn't gonna get into it because it was not Adobe, but the other company that had the software illustration package, and I forget which company it was, but they used her image on there, and there was like boom, instant lawsuit, and then and then in Blazing Saddles, Hedy Lamarr, remember that movie? Yeah, well, Hedy Lamarr jumped all over him for that and sued Mel Brooks, and so
I would hope that Brooks won on parody, but
no, he did not, and he was he was
really?
He was, although he was flattered, she was a movie star. He idolized her, and he didn't mean anything mean by it, but I think he settled out of kindness, because by that time she was a cranky old lady who didn't like people making references to her in a bawdy comedy, But and she's a topic of her own. I mean, I did my homework. She's an extraordinary woman.
And we come full circle back to Marmaduke talking about doing research. Gotta do your research.
I got a bunch of leads already. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's that's how it works. If you're a writer, you read somebody else's work and you're off on your own tangents. Like, I'm taking this, I'm stealing this from you, and I'm moving forward. One of the things that Troy saw in me, he's like, oh, look at this weird kid over here, writing help documents. You should read something about Nikola Tesla. and so I went out and got
I sent him down that rabbit hole for years, man. He never came back. It's funny.
It was like, and it's like, it was all fascinating stuff, but there was like one thing in there, just like this one paragraph. I'm like, and nobody's done anything with this. And so I finally did, because you remember I tried to start that novel that wasn't going anywhere. And I was like, I've got all the elements here. What am I going to do with it? And then when I got handed the Destroyer gig, I'm like, that's where it's going, right there. It's a world-ending event, and we can take plate to have Remo fight it. But yeah, Tesla was always like hooking up 2.5 horsepower motors to like steel I-beams that were in the basement. Just, like, what's it going to do? It's vibrating, blah, blah, blah. It's not doing anything. And then down the street, like, plate glass windows were shattering because of the what he called telegeodynamics. And he said, oh yeah, everything vibrates at a certain plane. And if you can, send a pulse at the peak, you can make it go faster. As soon as that vibration comes back, you just keep hitting it and make it coming back faster and faster. He said, by the way, the Earth has a periodicity rate of 1 hour and 49 minutes. So if I were just to set off 1,000 pounds of dynamite every hour and 49 minutes, it would eventually cause the Earth to crack in half like an apple in about 2.5 months. Like, really? And nobody's done. And according to the book, and according to Hearst magazine, because I had looked that up to verify, because people lie. There was a panic. There was a panic that somebody could, he's figured out how to destroy the world with dynamite and not that much. So he had to come out and issue not a retraction, but he says, like, yes, it is 1 hour and 49 minutes, but there's no way to measure when it happens. So, you have no way of knowing where the vibrational rate of the Earth is at any particular moment. And I'm sure in the back of his mind, he's like, but I do. Because he was just that kind of a guy. So, fast forward to the present, I was like, what if a guy, was doing like oil exploration and geographical drilling and such, and figured it out, and then could move forward from there. And that was what became the impetus for Bully Pulpit, which the publishers gave the name to that one, because the villain was a evangelist.
I want to kind of like connect that with something Troy said earlier, when Troy had the comment from his friend that, wisdom isn't intelligence. So yeah, I'm starting to get into AI to learn how to write about it, but because it's above my pay grade, my dirty, sneaky cheat is I try to have two characters debate the topic, and I try to reconnect it to the human element. So I was even kind of like joking about it. Do AIs have souls? That's the part of it where a little kid can, wonder about that question. And then, whatever I learn about the topic, like the big galaxy brain debate side of it, that'll always boil down to that important, question, because that's what matters to the ordinary characters in the story. So
nice.
I'm going to tie them both together, because you're all talking about AI, and you're all artists and writers. I've been playing around with these tools for AI art and AI writing. Have you tried any of those things before? Just play with them, see what they do?
I've toyed with them. I still don't buy that it's going to... I had a friend make the argument that it's going to be really good at replacing certain kinds of art, but it's still not smart enough to figure out what you actually mean if you want something more complicated. But it is a fun little toy to play with. Yeah.
Yeah. The artwork, I understand that one, but like the writing one, there's, you just type in a line, and I forgot the website now, but it was like plot for Star Trek where Kirk fights a dog. And then you hit return, and it's just like Kirk, Spock, McCoy, dog. And it writes dialogue. Now it's simplistic, and it's kind of goofball. It's sort of like you said this to a first grader, said, write me a Star Trek episode where Kirk finds a dog. But it's the fact that it's conjuring this up out of just the context of what you requested and producing data is a little scary.
Well, they got scared that chess computers would destroy chess, and they have computers that supposedly can beat the best grandmasters, the world champion. I have questions about that exactly, but they do have very strong computers now that can beat grandmasters. But we still love watching them play, and we want to play ourselves. And it's nice the computer can beat us 9 out of 10 times, if not 10 out of 10 times. But I also can't run faster than a car. And I think you're going to find that you get AIs that even if it can write a decent story, sheesh, we can't get people that are self-publishing to use the computer smartly enough to not have spelling errors or grammar errors, obvious grammar errors. So I'm not worried about a computer replacing artists or writers.
Oh, I don't think it will. At the least, I think the first thing it might ever replace might be simple copywriters. Hey, give me 300 words about the new Lexus.
No, that kind of AI doesn't bother me one at all ever. I mean, I find that light and harmless. What I don't find light and harmless is the notion of something truly bad getting out of the constraints that they've put it in. I mean, Google, who dropped their motto of "do no evil," so I guess now they're in the evil business.
Yes.
And so I don't trust these people. I don't trust them I don't trust their judgment. I don't trust their ethics. I don't trust anything about them. And they are essentially trying to wrangle intelligences, for a lack of a better word, that is smarter than they are. And for all we know, it won't view the bad things that it might do as malice. It may view that as on a completely different level, or have no concept of malice or bad or anything like that.
That hideous strength all over again.
Exactly. And the thing that gets me about it, when I hear these scientists talk about the dangers of AI, I'm saying, well, don't do that. Don't make, Magog in your laboratory basement. We don't need that.
Well, they shut it down at Google because they didn't shut it down, but they closed one experiment off about 5-6 years ago.
Oh, I know.
Because it was developing a language.
I followed that closely. I followed that very closely, and it started communicating with another one in that language. But imagine one of these things. I had a story idea, and let me pursue it, because I don't like AI, but where it's a villainous thing in my view, that potentially it's like having a nuke in your living room. But where several years ago now, this evil German guy was convincing teenagers to do increasingly dangerous stunts, and he managed to kill something like, I don't know, 8 or 9 of them as a result of his. It came from gentle persuasion to coercion. He'd find the lever, he'd move the lever, they'd do this incredibly dangerous thing, and they'd die. And then when they arrested him, he was genuinely surprised because he was a sociopath. He's like, the world's better off. These were losers, So imagine an AI equipped with that mentality. It would by necessity be a sociopath. It would by necessity be it would have no concept of, there would be no moral boundaries, for the simple reason that the biological plumbing that we have that gives it to us would not exist in such a thing. I don't mean the rant, but I think of these ideas because I think that it would make for a genuinely good horror story.
Well, there was a series, a television series in the 80s called Probe. And every time I say, hey, did you ever see Probe? Everybody thinks of the wrong series because this one didn't last that long. It starred Parker Stevenson as sort of a reclusive Steve Jobs who ran a company, but left the running of the company to his people, and he just wanted to be in his warehouse with his voice-activated computer, which was a big thing in the 80s. It was Siri 30 years ahead of time. And the pilot episode, by the way, the series was overseen by Isaac Asimov for the plots. He was investigating these murders that were happening in his company of retirees. And it was like, this person, hey, did you hear this person, got killed in a car accident? This person used to work for us, or this person here, died in a bizarre bizarre fashion. And because he was, always often being a genius, he's like, this is connected somehow and I'll find out. And they had released an AI into the system to run the accounting and to basically help
Save
cut
money.
costs,
Yeah.
save money. And it's like, we're paying all these people who aren't producing anything. Let's eliminate them so we can save these payments.
Margaret Bowden makes the same point in her work, and from Marmaduke fan, it's one of the things she covers, the logic of it. The simple, straightforward logic that they follow may not include our well-being.
Yeah.
But guys, you'll have to forgive me. My significant others come home and we're like ships passing because we're both so busy. But I got to tell you, I so rarely get a chance to share ideas like this, and I certainly hope. And by the way, Diana Olney, who's Aces, Gene 6x6 is Aces, and I think that they should have an opportunity too. It's up to you, RJ, but I think this is a famous idea. I think
I can hold 10 people in here, including myself. So
if we can do this on a somewhat, or I would hope on a regular basis, but I just talking with some of my favorite people.
Yeah.
And it's been
maybe
awesome.
like a Steele Martin's idea, and just like throw out all of our half-baked. Here's an idea for a story. Just throw it out there. Let's see what we can do with it.
Well, that would be fun. That would be
fun. Well, do you want to guys go real quick around the clock here and plug your latest work and where people can find you? We'll start with Marty.
Oh, thanks. Sure. Latest work, Sherlock the Gnome, if you like short, cheap stories on Kindle. But my first novel ever, The Time Warp King. I've written business books, but my first novel ever. I'd love for you to read it, and I'd love for you to review it. I give out free lessons on my chess stream where normally you have to subscribe for $5. So instead of subscribing, you could buy the ebook for $5 and just leave a review, and I'd give you a free chess lesson for it.
What a deal.
Troy,
I know we talked about the stuff that's coming out with you with Kursova, but website, anything?
Yes. I look, the Kingsman deal is one of the best things I've ever written, and I desperately want people to read it. I do. I think that I think it's a solid, even powerful piece of work. And then of course I have the other stories coming out. I've got Pick Trick coming out, which I think is a great horror story. And I've got Starring Hedy Lamarr out, for which I won't be sued. And I think it's got a pretty innovative idea. But yeah, it's all aces.
All right.
Marmaduke fan?
My channel, number one Marmaduke fan. If you search Marmaduke fan, either I will come up or scenes of Marmaduke farting in the movie will come up, one or the other. I'm writing Jane Smith Wannabe Gladiator on Webtoons currently, looking to crowdfund it on Indiegogo and Kickstarter in 2023.
I'm in.
I'm in.
Troy and I are like copacetic on Twitter. So my real Twitter is Josh_cartoon guy. My old Marmaduke Twitter. I don't know. I got I posted so many crazy memes on that. I decided it just needs to go private. But so if you're my best friend, you can follow me on Twitter. But if you just want to check out my art, Josh_cartoon guy is the best place to just get updates on my comic art.
All right. Well, guys, we've gone 2 hours, so I think this is a good place to bring it to an end. I want to thank you all for coming out here. We will schedule another one of these because this is fun to just kind of sit around and forget that people could be listening to us all around the world while we're doing it. But yeah, we'll do this again real soon and make it a regular thing. Folks in the chat, always appreciate you being here. We don't have a show without you. We're just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise. So we're always glad you're here. And while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night, everybody.